Hello James, it's Tuesday. So I have one small thing I want to do before I actually get to responding to your video, and that's actually to respond to Katie's comment to your video, so I'm still considering it to be relevant. I don't know how much this is going to be appreciated, but I basically wanted to reiterate Katie's comment about what we had been talking about with masculinity and sensitivity with this phrase that correlation does not imply causation. Now, not only has this phrase come up in my psych class as well as what little statistics I've taken, but it is also the core of one particular strip of XKCD. And this all just serves to tell you that yeah, I think in terms of comics. So yeah, you guys can do with that what you will, but anywho, on to alcohol. Now, unfortunately, I do not feel comfortable talking about the very few experiences that I may or may not have had with alcohol, because hypothetically, of course, speaking so openly about what is actually breaking the law is just about as stupid as posting pictures of yourself falling down drunk on Facebook. And call me judgmental, but how stupid do you have to be to do that? So instead, I'm just gonna have to do what James did and talk about the alcohol laws in Pennsylvania, and I honestly don't know all of them by heart, or even many of them, so I'm gonna have to pull these up. So just as a bit of a disclaimer, I am reading from Wikipedia, so I don't really know how much that matters for these purposes, but anyways, Wikipedia says that the alcohol laws of Pennsylvania are some of the most restrictive in the United States of America. Basically, there's a bunch of crap as far as licensing goes for restaurants and bars and whatnot to serve beer and everything else. And aside from licensed restaurants and bars, the only places you can get alcohol are state-owned wine and spirits shops. And I found this point interesting. Even for non-alcoholic beer, you have to be over 21 to buy or consume it. So yeah, basically it's a pain in the ass to get your hands on. As far as drunk driving goes, which I feel is the more relevant point here, the maximum BAC for people over 21 is 0.08. And like Arizona, according to James, we do have a zero tolerance policy for people under 21, which interestingly enough means a BAC of 0.02. And it strikes me as at least a little humorous that a zero tolerance policy is more like a 1/4 the tolerance policy. Anyways, I'm going to move on to one rather specific thing that you said, which was, circles are fun. This was in reference to the fact that we live in different countries, and I find it kind of interesting, because while we have sort of come together as one group which may or may not cross a certain parallel, we are still identifiable as two groups from different countries. And this by no means has been a problem, but I have noticed hints of ethnocentricity come up. Obviously, there's the forgetting that laws are different between the two countries, and I feel like we're all sort of guilty of it, but I don't feel like it's a problem because it's at least fueling this discussion, which is good. But aside from that, and I know this is going to sound weird, but the Canadians have been telling me to spell things differently. Sure, I've somewhat come to terms with spelling things with S's instead of Z's, such as apologize, but I'm telling you, gray has an A in it. I mean, you can't even say the word gray without saying the letter A. And of course, pronunciations. I recall Jeff saying that bean is the correct way of pronouncing bin. To that, all I really have to say is, who cares? I mean, don't get me wrong, I actually love hearing about how differently we say things, like even just calling a road the 202 versus 202, it's just kind of cool. But I won't say that one's more correct than the other. I'm kind of just realizing now that I don't really have a point with this. That seems to happen to me a lot, doesn't it? But yeah, those are just observations, and I thought I'd throw them out there and see what happens to them, because interesting things happen on this channel. And Jeff, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow with you. Oh, and right, as a quick reminder, what was that thing on your head? Anyways, bye.